What's going on? My name is Francis, and if you're new to this channel, consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell because I post a new video every single day. If you want to become a private client, then consider applying for a free consultation by hitting the website that's in the description box of this video. What we're going to be talking about in this video is how to embrace any life changes, okay? Because everything in your life is in a continual state of change. Your reality is continually changing every single moment, okay? Your thoughts are always changing, your emotions are always changing, your feelings are always changing. Even things that may seem solid are actually changing. If you look deeper, everything is continually in a state of change. And most people live their lives thinking that, they've been living for 30, 40, 50 years, and they still haven't learned the truth that everything is in a continual state of change. Okay, and the ego is always in resistance to change because the ego is in resistance to the moment. The ego wants this moment to be some other moment than it is, and so when something is changing, it's saying, I don't want this moment to change. It attaches to the moment. And the ego is nothing more than a false sense of self that we attach to, which comes from a lack of awareness of who we really are, which is a lack of awareness of the thinking. We're too unconsciously absorbed in the thinking mind. And when you're living your life from this place, you're not going to be able to fully embrace life changes because the ego is continually resisting change and it attaches to the forms that come in reality. And so people haven't learned that literally everything in your life is continually changing. Like literally your thoughts are always changing, your feelings are changing, okay, your emotions are changing, your body is changing. So what does that mean? It means that your relationships are going to change, your career is going to change. You have to come into acceptance with the truth that literally your life is going to be a series of problems happening. Okay, and the ego has this false expectation that life is not going to throw challenges and that things are always going to go as expected. And when you have a false expectation for the way things go, that is what creates frustration and anxiety because the ego and the mind tries to tell itself that things should be going in this exact direction. But a lot of the times, life doesn't work like that. Things aren't just going to go perfectly in that direction that your mind planned it out to be. And so if you have that expectation, which really does come from an attachment to the moment, trying to be some way, or an attachment to some kind of outcome, or attachment in general, if you have that false expectation, then of course there's going to be suffering involved when it comes to that, because reality is always changing. And if you have this false expectation that things shouldn't be changing or that they should be going in the way that you want them to go perfectly in that exact linear direction, then of course there's going to be suffering involved because you think that it should be going one way, but then it goes another way. So of course there's going to be frustration, but the reality is that your career is going to change. Your relationships are going to change. And so here's the thing though, is that you can connect to a deeper part of yourself that never actually changes, okay? It's this deeper sense of self that you can access that doesn't change. It's the witness of all of these things, okay? Because everything that changes, we're gonna call that form. Okay, forms are continually changing. Forms meaning thought forms are changing, your emotions are changing. All these things are in a continual state of change. But there's one thing that doesn't change, which is the witness of all of those things. And this is where the present moment can come into play. Because there's that sense of the observer happening at all moments. That sense of I before the I am. It's that sense of existence that comes in before the mind tells itself that it exists. So this part of yourself is never changing. It's that sense of awareness. It's that sense of consciousness. It's that sense of being the observer, the witnessing presence of reality. These words are all pointing to the same thing. I am pointing you to a deeper truth, a non-changing truth that you always have access to, but sometimes we forget because we're too lost in the forms of reality that we're unconsciously attached to. Because all these things are changing, but you are not those things. You are the witness of those things. Anything that you can witness, you are not it. So if you can witness your thoughts, then you are not your thoughts. You are simply the witness of your thoughts. But then who is that witness? What is that witness? we're going to call it pure empty awareness. But that's nothing more than a word to represent something deeper that you can only access by experiencing it directly. And it won't even be an experience, it'll be a noticing of the thing that has the ability to observe the experience, because there's the experience and there's the observer. And so when you can connect to this part of yourself, you'll find that you can connect to a sense of peace that you always have access to regardless of the changing forms, because forms are always unstable. Okay, and we're conditioned in a society where we believe that forms are not going to change. We believe that forms are very solid and very stable, but the reality is that we attach to these forms thinking unconsciously that they're not going to change, when in reality it's continually going to change, right? And so you got to understand that forms are unstable. If you have this dependence on those forms to be staying there for your happiness, you inevitably will suffer. You will suffer because if you're attached to happiness that will go away, you will suffer because it's going to change. It's a temporary energy field of happiness that comes up and then eventually goes away. You are not that feeling, you are the witness of that feeling. Same goes for pain. Same goes for any negative emotion. Anything that you can witness, you are not it. It's that sense of I am, that sense of I exist before the I am. Some people call it the I before the I. Okay, in Buddhism, they call it the formless. So this is the formless part of who you are. Very interesting that you can say formless, because what is formless? That word implies that it's not form. It's nothing. It's no thing. And so this means that there's forms happening, but there's something happening in the background that you are not aware of right now, but you can become aware of it if you notice that it's there. And when you notice that thing, it's almost like this field of peace. Eckhart Tolle calls it a field of peace. It's stillness. Okay, you can call it stillness. But notice how all these words are just words, and that I'm pointing you to something deeper. And so when you can become aware of this energy field, this field of consciousness, so to speak, that's happening in the background, which is once again just another word to represent something deeper that I'm pointing you to, when you can become aware of that, it's almost like you're becoming aware of awareness. You're noticing, hey, wait a second, here I am, here's the awareness. Okay, and it's like you're pointing yourself to awareness. But the first level is, wait a second, here I am, and here's my thoughts. Here I am, and those are my thoughts. Here I am, and I am observing those thoughts, and I am not those thoughts. Most people attach to energy fields of emotions. They say, I am angry. Okay, how can you can't be angry. It's not that I am angry, because anger is an energy field that comes up and then eventually goes away. So most people become their emotions. The frame that you want to have is you are the witness. I am the awareness that is simply observing an energy field of anger right now. And so you see, in this scenario, what happens is that you're not completely attached to the form that comes up, and then in the detachment is the true liberation and the freedom. Because regardless of what happens in your life, you're still going to be you're still going to be, the awareness of that thing. You're not going to be completely attached to it, because most people are attached to these things unconsciously. But when you can simply be the witness, there's a sense of freedom that comes along with this, because most people are meditating, most people feel really calm, feel really peaceful, and then something happens where it changes their mood right away. So it's like you're going through your day, you're meditating, you're in a flow state, you feel present, and then Eckhart Tolle said this funny story where, you're walking, you're having a good flowing moment, you feel present to the moment, and then you step in mud, right? And then what happens? Boom, your awareness goes into the thinking, you start reacting, you start adding more fuel than necessary to the fire, you start making the situation way worse than it is, and the moment you step into that mud, the awareness immediately goes into the thinking mind, into the ego, and starts overreacting. Okay, and so that's resistance of the moment. And so it's not really any different when you have a career change that you're resisting. Something happens, and then your awareness goes right into the thinking and resists the moment, not seeing the peace and the aliveness that is happening in the background at all times. And so when you can learn to access this, what you'll find is that you are not form, you are simply the witness of form. As you notice this, there's a sense of peace that you can never lose as you go through your life. And so, interesting thing about this is that when you become aware of this, when you start to notice this part of yourself, where was it all this time? Has that not been within you this whole time, even at your lowest points of life when you were depressed? It was always there. We were just too attached to the form to realize it. We were too attached to our thinking to realize it. We were too attached to the ego to realize it. And so everything is changing. And so when you can accept that everything is changing and find the deeper field of stillness and awareness and presence and consciousness that is happening in the background of the form, your life will literally shift, because you'll start to see that no matter what happens, you can stay grounded. And the interesting thing about this is that, at the beginning phases of this process of awakening to who you truly are, in the beginning, it's not about, having this peaceful state of mind. When I say this field of peace, it's not that you're not going to experience pain. You're still going to experience pain at the beginning. In fact, your whole life is going to be series of pain coming in. Your whole life is going to be challenges. The interesting thing about this, though, is that at the beginning, don't expect that you're not going to feel the pain. It's that you come into acceptance with that pain, because in the awareness and noticing that there is that awareness, you don't attach to the pain. You remove the mental resistance to the pain, to the life situation. You don't blow it out of proportion, because you notice that the mind is creating more suffering than necessary. And so when you can start this journey, at the beginning, it's not about not having pain. At the beginning, you're going to have pain. It's about being aware of that pain, noticing being the witness of that pain, and simply allowing it to be there. And then what's going to happen eventually is that you'll start to feel more peace. You'll start to feel more calmness. You start to feel more relaxed. You're going to be more grounded. You're going to be more unreactive. But this starts with simply becoming aware and accepting the pain to begin with. So don't have this false expectation that when I say there's a deep field of stillness in the background, that you're not gonna, feel pain. You're still gonna feel pain at the beginning phases of this. In fact, you're still gonna feel pain later. But then as you develop a different relationship to the changing form, that is where true freedom and liberation comes. True freedom and liberation is not about removing pain or removing happiness. Both of these polarities are always going to happen. The deeper sense of freedom is when you can find the deeper acceptance and the stillness that transcends all that stuff. When you can live your life from a place of not attaching to pleasure or pain, that is where true freedom and true liberation actually comes. And so you're not going to be affected at a deeper level regardless of what happens. And maybe something happens in your life that you don't prefer, but you know that deep inside you have that sense of I exist, that sense of presence that you can never lose. No matter what happens on the external form, you always have access to this stillness. Nobody can take that away from you. That is unconditional love, unconditional gratitude. You feel good based on no conditions. That is true freedom and liberation, when you can find something that gives you peace regardless of the external condition. That is unconditional love, unconditional presence. What is unconditional? Something that you can access with no conditions. Awareness is always there without any condition, okay? It's always there. That is true freedom. And so once again, at the beginning, it doesn't mean you're not going to have pain. It means you're going to have different relationship to that pain. But then as a result, then you will also have less pain, because when you release the mental resistance, you work through it easier. When you fully surrender yourself to something, it's almost like you're transmuting that energy into presence. And so let's say you have anger, instead of saying I am angry, you simply remain the witness of the field of anger coming up, the energy field of anger. It's almost like you're transmuting that anger, you're transmuting that energy field into something deeper where it's not controlling you anymore. If there's a life situation that comes up that triggers a response within you, you simply remain the witness and the observer of it. Realize you are not it, but you are the observer. Don't become anger, don't become anxious. Simply be the observer of anxiety. Now that is true freedom, because regardless of what happens, you feel that sense of peace. And then as you allow it to be there, you let go of it much faster, which allows you to get closer to feeling high vibrational emotions most of your day. But at the beginning phases of this, don't expect that you're gonna feel high vibrational emotions. You have to first come into acceptance where you currently are right now. And when I say acceptance, I'm saying be fully conscious and aware as the witness. You can't be fully conscious of something and resisting at the same time. If you are fully conscious of something, that already implies acceptance. I'm not saying accept on the logical level. I'm saying be so aware, be so conscious of whatever it is that you're feeling. Simply be the witness of it and don't become it. That implies acceptance. You might be saying, well, wait a second, Francis. What if I'm completely aware of resistance in my mind? Then what? See, I got you there. You didn't get anything, because if you're fully conscious of resistance, that implies that you're allowing the resistance to be there. Most people have resistance, but they're resisting their resistance. So not only are they reacting to some situation, they're reacting to their own reaction, which creates more of a reaction. When you resist something, it persists. So if you're in resistance to resistance, then you create more resistance. But if you're fully conscious of resistance and you allow it to be there, now you release the resistance. So you can't be fully conscious of something and be resisting it at the same time. So this is where true freedom and liberation comes from. And all of that is a funny play of words, but where does it really come from? It comes from that deeper sense of stillness, that deeper sense of awareness, that deeper sense of I am, the deeper sense of I. It's not I am verbally in your head. It's just a sense of I exist. How do you know you exist right now? You can be aware of your thoughts. Who is that? Who is the observer of thoughts? Okay. Keep in mind that when I ask you a question like this, don't expect the answer to come in the form of a thought. It's going to come in the form of something deeper that is not a thought in your head. The answer will come in the form as a feeling, so to speak, but not even a feeling either. It's the witness of the feeling. So I'm going to give you some pointers to try to connect it as part of yourself if you don't fully get it. Because if you're watching this video right now, still at this point, then you know what I'm talking about. And so what I'm pointing you to is something deeper than words. It's deeper than thoughts. It's deeper than feelings. It's deeper than emotions. It's deeper than any form. It's the formless part of who you are. All these words, once again, formless, consciousness, awareness, presence. Okay, some people don't use presence. You could be the watcher, the observer, the witnessing presence. All right, that's a good one. You could, like, whatever word you want to use, okay, it is not important here. The most important thing is to actually understand what that is on a deeper level. Okay, the thing that you can't conceptualize. This is a deeper sense of awareness. And when you connect to that deeper sense of awareness, that is true freedom. That is true liberation, regardless of any change in your life. That is how you embrace any change happening in your life. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this kind of content, then consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell, because I'm posting a video every single day. Once again, if you want to become a private client, then consider applying for a free consultation by hitting the website that's in the description box of this video. If you want to download a free guided meditation MP3 to clear your mind and detach from the ego, then consider just hitting the website. There's another link in the description box of this video, and you can download a free guided meditation. That's all I have for you today. Have yourself a great day, and see you in the next video.